Welcome to the show, everyone. Simon Carver here, and today we are diving deep into a topic that is reshaping the very fabric of our professional lives. The episode today is titled Symbiosis at the Edge: How Cyborg Professionals and Autonomous Orchestration Are Redefining the Enterprise. We're going to unpack some truly groundbreaking research that shows AI isn't just a tool we use anymore. It's changing how our brains actually function at work. Before we introduce the team, if you enjoy these deep dives into the future of work, please take a quick second to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Also, don't forget to check out our free courses on our YouTube channel, which can help you better understand these topics in a deeper sense. All your support really helps us continue to keep bringing you these insights. Joining me today are my co-host, Lachlan Reed, along with our brilliant guest hosts, workplace strategist CJ Murphy, and organizational psychologist Dr. Zara Sterling, PhD. Welcome, everyone.
G'day, Simon. Stoked to be here. This topic is absolute gold. It's like we've crossed some invisible boundary where we aren't just sitting at our desks typing into a machine anymore. We're actively coexisting with it. Even out in my backyard shed, working on my old trail bikes, I'm starting to see how these smart systems don't just give you an answer, they change how you approach the problem from the get-go.
Let's talk about what's actually happening here. We are looking at a landmark study conducted by Harvard, MIT, Wharton, and the Boston Consulting Group. This wasn't a small laboratory test with students. They analyzed 758 elite management consultants at BCG. These are highly paid, highly skilled professionals. And the core finding is that we are moving past the software as a tool era into something much more intimate. It's a continuous, conversational symbiosis.
Precisely, CJ. From a cognitive perspective, we are observing a structural shift in how tasks are processed. In traditional knowledge work, there is a clear linear sequence. A human formulates an intent, executes it using a tool, and evaluates the output. But in this new model, the boundary between human cognition and machine processing becomes incredibly porous. We see a real-time, iterative feedback loop where the prompt and the response merge into a single cognitive flow.
Spot on, Zara. It's what the researchers call the cyborg professional. They aren't just chucking a task over the fence to an AI and waiting for it to spit something out. It's a constant, rapid fire back and forth. The human writes a line, the AI refines it. The human argues with the refinement, the AI adjusts. It's like two people holding the same paintbrush, and honestly, after 100 exchanges, you can't tell who painted which stroke. It makes you wonder where your own thoughts actually end and the machine's suggestions begin.
That boundary is exactly what's shifting. The real question isn't just what the AI can do, but how this constant proximity to a highly competent partner alters our internal mental models. When you are in a continuous dialogue, you aren't just offloading execution, you are co-creating. And that changes the nature of agency itself.
That shift in agency really brings us to the three distinct worker archetypes that the Harvard and BCG researchers identified. They didn't find that everyone used the AI the same way. Instead, they saw three very different behaviors emerge: the Centaurs, the Cyborgs, and the self-automators. Let's break these down because the differences are massive.
Let's look at the Centaurs first. Like the mythical, half-human, half-horse creature, these professionals maintain a strict division of labour. They keep their territory separate. The human handles high-level strategy, judgment, and emotional context, while the machine is relegated to structured data analysis or heavy drafting. This division allows them to upskill significantly in their core domain expertise because they are freeing up cognitive bandwidth. They use the machine as a clear-cut utility.
Yeah, it's like having a dedicated sidecar on your motorbike. You're still steering the bike, and the sidecar is just carrying the heavy gear. But the cyborgs, they're different. They're actually merging the two. As we said, they're in that constant dialogue. And the research shows cyborgs are new skilling. They aren't just getting better at their old job, they are developing entirely new hybrid capabilities that only exist when they're paired with the system. They completed tasks 25% faster and produced significantly higher quality work.
But then we have the third group, and this is where we need to look very closely: the self-automators. These are the workers who essentially outsourced the actual cognitive work to the machine. They became automators. They prompted, accepted the output with minimal editing, and submitted. They got a massive speed boost initially, sometimes finishing tasks in a fraction of the time, but the researchers observed zero skill gains. In fact, their independent performance actually degraded over the course of the study.
This is a classic demonstration of what we in organizational psychology call cognitive offloading. The human brain is an evolutionary energy saver. It will always take the path of least resistance. When presented with a highly fluent, authoritative-sounding partner, the brain stops exercising its critical evaluation systems. You aren't just outsourcing the labour, you are outsourcing the reasoning.
It's like relying on GPS for every single drive, even to the local grocer. After a year of that, if your phone battery dies, you're completely lost in your own neighborhood. You've literally let those spatial mapping muscles in your brain go soft.
And that's the trap. If you are a self-automator, you're trading long-term professional development for short-term speed. You might look incredibly productive on a manager's dashboard this week, but you are systematically hollowing out your own unique value proposition.
And this gets even hairier when we talk about what's coming next. Autonomous orchestration. We aren't just talking about chatbots anymore. We're talking about AI agents that are designed to look at a project, decide what tasks need to be done, select the tools, and execute them without a human constantly clicking approve. It's a whole different ballgame.
This is where we run straight into what the researchers call the Jagged Technological Frontier. It's a critical concept. Most people assume technology improves along a neat, predictable straight line. Easy tasks are automated first, then medium, then hard. But AI doesn't work that way. The frontier of what it can do is highly irregular, jagged, and often invisible.
Exactly. An LLM might successfully solve a highly complex, multi-layered programming problem, and then turn around and fail at a basic, common-sense, logical deduction task. Because the machine's output is always delivered with the same level of linguistic confidence, the human user cannot easily tell when they have crossed the frontier from the machine's area of competence into its area of failure. This breeds automation complacency.
We actually saw this in the BCG study itself, didn't we? The researchers gave the participants a specific task that was deliberately designed to mislead the AI, a task that required subtle business judgment that the LLM would get wrong. And the professionals who trusted the AI blindly, the ones who had developed that complacency, failed spectacularly. They performed significantly worse than the control group who didn't use AI at all.
They failed because they stopped questioning. They assumed that because the machine was brilliant at task A and task B, it must be correct on task C. Now, when you scale that up to an enterprise level where organizations are pushing for pure, unadulterated efficiency, what happens to junior talent?
Mate, that is the million-dollar question. If a firm automates all the entry-level analysis, the drafting, the basic research, the stuff that junior analysts traditionally do to cut their teeth, how does anyone actually learn the business? You can't just jump from zero experience to having deep, strategic human judgment. You've got to do the hard yards first. If we hollow out the bottom of the ladder, how does anyone reach the top?
We risk creating a generation of operators who can run the orchestration systems, but lack the deep, tacit knowledge required to evaluate whether the system's outputs are actually accurate, ethical, or strategically sound. We are trading long-term resilience for immediate, quarterly efficiency gains.
So how do we fight back against this hollowing out? How do we build what you call cognitive resilience in a world where autonomous orchestration is becoming the corporate standard? We can't just ban the tech. It's too powerful.
We have to move from passive consumption to active skepticism. We've seen this pattern before with previous waves of automation, but the cognitive scale here is unprecedented. Professionals must deliberately design friction back into their workflows. You have to force yourself to do the independent thinking before you query the machine. Write down your own hypothesis first. Outline the solution using your own brain before you let the AI draft it.
That makes heaps of sense, CJ. It's like working out. If you want to keep your muscles, you've got to lift the heavy weights yourself, even if there's a forklift standing right next to you. For companies, maybe we need to change how we train junior staff. Instead of just assessing their final output, we need to assess their process. Are they questioning the machine? Can they explain why the AI's first draft was flawed?
Indeed, Lachlan, the most critical, non-negotiable skill of the next decade is not prompt engineering, and it is not coding. It is maintaining a continuous, conscious, meta-awareness of your own cognitive state. You must constantly ask yourself, am I actively thinking right now, or am I letting the machine think for me? The moment we lose that distinction, we cease to be the directors of technology and simply become its monitors.
That is such a profound way to look at it, Zara. The future of work isn't about human versus machine, but it's also not about blindly merging into one. It's about a very intentional, disciplined partnership where we hold the line on what makes us uniquely human: our judgment, our ethics, our willingness to question.
Spot on, Simon. It's been an absolute cracker of a chat today. To everyone listening, we hope this gives you some real food for thought next time you're firing up your AI tools. Don't forget to hit those subscribe and share buttons, leave us a review, and support the show. It keeps the lights on and the conversations flowing.
Keep finding ways to stay deeply, unapologetically human in your work. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Human Workforce.